Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Lee Cantor here with Stone Payton, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio. And Stone, this is going to be a fun one.
Hey, man, this is going to be a lot of fun. It is my distinct pleasure to ask you to join me in welcoming back to the Business Radio X microphone Dojo Master and Chief Strategist with Liger Partners, Mr. Eric Holtzclaw. How are you, man?
I'm good. Nice to speak with both of you again, and thanks for the invite.
Well, Eric, before we get too far into things, tell us about Liger Partners. How are you serving folks?
So we are a marketing as a service, to use sort of a cliche term. You hear everything as a service nowadays, and that's how we approach our work. We become the marketing department for small to medium-sized businesses where they're typically trying to hire a unicorn marketer, and there's no such thing as a unicorn, but you can hire a Liger. Liger is a combination of we know how to do both the strategy and the execution for marketing. So we've got a set of people who have the skill sets from everything from trade shows to making sure you can be found online and kind of everything in between.
So now what is the kind of profile of your perfect client?
Our perfect client is, we work a lot of B2B. So we probably do 70-80% of our business in B2B and the rest of it's B2C. We work with a lot of companies that are in the vapor and paper space, meaning that they sell that they're smart or they're selling something that is not necessarily tangible. Doesn't mean, we've got one company we sell T-shirts and another we're doing hair extensions. So we have those in our product suite. But really it's companies that are looking to establish a relationship with their customer. Maybe someone who has a long sales cycle. So it takes several months to get that customer to make the decision to make the purchase. And they need to be educated about the product or service along the way. And a company that, either maybe doesn't think they need to do marketing, which is not true. Everyone needs to do marketing, and doesn't have a fully formed marketing department in place. And, looking for like one person who needs to do typically about 12 different skill sets to really be successful with marketing.
Now, what's the pain they're having before they should consider calling the folks at Liger?
They've set up their business, they have a product and service to sell, they may have launched their website or opened up their store, but they're not seeing the customers that they want coming to their front door. No one knows that they exist. So they're looking for inbound leads. They want to make sure that people can find them when they're searching for them on the internet, have some type of social media presence and just really overall awareness. So we make the company's phones ring, we make people visit their website and help them convert prospects and suspects into paying customers.
Now, when some of these professional services, I would imagine that's one of your areas that you work in professional services, they feel that a lot of times their business is word of mouth is the best way to get customers or referrals. How do you kind of educate them to maybe be more assertive and more proactive in the going to market in the first place?
Yeah, so we hear that a lot. Why should we be doing social media? Why should we be putting out content? One of the things is that even if I hear about you through word of mouth, I'm going to go check you out. And the first place I'm going to go check you out is going to be online. So what kind of presence do you have? What are you saying? Do I believe in and do we have the same approach to kind of philosophy? And I want to discover that stuff on my own. In fact, the B2B buyer has made 70% of the decision before they pick up the phone or take that initial call from you. So you're establishing, a resume of sorts for yourself online through both what you do in social media and on your website. And you're making sure that you have content that's educating your customer. So you don't want to tell them what you do. You want to teach them and honestly convince them that it's so hard to do they shouldn't do it themselves. So the companies that are most successful are companies that are continually staying in front of their customer. You can't stay in front of them by just continuing to put out a sales message or calling them anytime you want to try to meet your quota. You got to stay in front of them consistently with information that kind of teaches them about what you do and how it helps their industry or helps them move their company along.
Now, how do you help your clients kind of have this more strategic thinking rather than the more tactical I'm just going to do this post, or I'm going to buy these pay-per-click ads, or I'm going to just do whatever this, email marketing, whatever that the tactic of the moment happens to be. How do you kind of help them kind of have a longer term vision of what marketing could be and the work that it requires?
So it's a combination of both strategy and execution. And you have to be careful when you're picking a firm like ours that you don't end up with one that just does strategy, because they're going to tell you to redo your website and rebrand your company and that your logo is terrible. Or if you're working with one that just does execution, they're going to try to sell you the thing they do well. So, oh, you really need social media or your SEO ad. We take a holistic look at the company. So we start off with who are you as a company and what are your goals over the next 12 to 24 months. And from that, what macro and micro trends are impacting your business, where you want to be. We looked back, 24 months from now and kind of decided this was successful. And based on that overall strategy for that 12 to 24 month time horizon, we create the set of tactics that are going to support the strategy. So it's not sitting down and deciding this week or this month, what are we going to do in marketing? You should already know that. You should know that as well as you do your financial plan, that, your taxes are due at a certain time, that you have to make payroll. All those types of tenets that you think about when you're doing proper financial planning also apply to marketing, and that's the approach we take. So we start every single engagement with a strategy meeting. We spend a day with the company really getting to know who they are, what they do, and what they care about. And from there, we prescribe the right type of tactics, which will include, some level of quote unquote social media, but it may not be, like if you're a B2B company, it may not be Facebook. It may be things like Quora, which is a question and answer platform, or Medium. And then we also have the ability to support that. So if you're, really good at whatever you do as a professional services company and marketing isn't your thing, you can use our team to build out the content and then make sure that you're staying consistently in front of your customer.
Now, having that kind of your North Star of your vision of the year, or whatever the calendar looks like for you, sounds good. And like right now, we're going through some trying times, and a lot of people's marketing plans are kind of thrown out the window based on this new reality that we're dealing with today. How are you counseling your clients to navigate this storm?
Well, the clients that we're working with, it's really been just a pivot in the message. So we're working, we still have the same content idea, the same structure around the content, but the messages we're using may be slightly different. The way that we're putting that content out and what we're talking about, we were focused on growth. Now we're focused on, sustaining and how do we potentially save costs versus, increasing up, the kind of the top line. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks. All of our clients, we've been able to counsel them about what their message should look like and how they kind of change it but stay within their objectives, and also working with them around what the goals might be. So they may be moving from selling one set of products and services to another while they're focused on pivoting their business and making sure their employees understand what's going on. They don't have to worry about the marketing part. The marketing is continuing to move forward, and we're doing all the stuff on the back end to help them make sure that message changes. Again, like I said, marketing is one of the first things that companies may cut. It's also one of the things that they pay attention to last. And so if you already have a team in place who's there to, have that conversation and say, okay, now what? What do we do next? We can then execute the tactics on the back end. We stay in constant conversation with our clients. So every client that we bring on, we give them a Slack channel, and that's how they communicate with our team. And so as they have new things that they see that they think we should be promoting, they merely have to put it up on that Slack channel, and then we take care of getting it across the right, locations. And we're also doing, at least every other week phone calls with them around what's the state of the business and what are they thinking about next, and what could be something we would promote on their behalf.
Now, what are you telling the ones that maybe are in a fearful or more vulnerable position today, and they want to pause things and then kind of wait this out?
So you and I have known each other for a while, and I think I can safely say that you and I have been through a few of these. So this is not the time to be, it's not the time to be meek. It's a time to be kind of bold and be ready for when we start to see some of the return. If you just disappear, people are not sure if you're still around, if you're a business that they should be calling out to, if you're in a strong position for them to bring in for some services. This is a real opportunity to both serve your customers maybe in a different way. We're doing daily office hours every morning at 10 o'clock. So we're in the Zoom room, and just anybody that wants to come in and talk to us can, and we're helping them think about what they should be doing today or what that pivot looks like. So this is not a time to honestly, if you fall back, and that's a mistake I've seen. I've seen a lot of restaurants and other kind of local businesses. They send out a lot of these kind of initial messages about COVID and what they were doing or not doing, but I've only seen very few of them continue to follow up with us as customers and let us know, here's what our menu looks like now. These are the types of things you can order from us. So those businesses are still open and running. I'm not sure of the others. I don't know what's going on with them because they're not putting out any type of message whatsoever.
Now, how do you help your clients when it comes to the content, if they're in an industry that maybe doesn't lend itself to a lot of creativity and maybe it's more of kind of a more mundane industry? How do you create the content on their behalf, or do you kind of coach them up on how to create content?
Yeah, when we sit down and do that 12-month calendar and we come up with what the topics would look like, and when we think of content, often people default to blogs, but it could be, a behind-the-scenes video or training or, a calculator of some sort. We have the team on the back end that interviews the subject matter expert. So if our client knows something really well, we'll put them on the phone with a writer or a designer or someone who knows how to program a quiz or whatever, and we create it. So they don't have to worry about it. We go off, we create the asset, and then bring it back and make sure we get their approval. And we work in some pretty boring topics, but there are ways of making those topics interesting. Like one of our clients is the world's leading expert in moving heavy machinery from one part of the country to the next. So that doesn't sound like the most exciting topic, but there's lots of different ways that we've been able to talk about. He had a project where they moved 6,000 tanks from one location to the next, and there were a bunch of questions that came in about what it was like to ride on a tank or how you take one apart. So doing some of that behind the scenes stuff, it's all the things you see on HGTV about how to renovate a house, or shows of like dirty jobs. Like telling the behind the scenes story, who the person is way more interesting and attracts more customers than just telling them what you do. Like teach them something about it, give them those behind the scenes sneak peeks, and then they remember who your business is, and when they either need that service themselves or come across someone who does, they're more likely to refer.
Can you share a story where maybe some of this kind of more storytelling way of communicating has been effective for a company that maybe historically hadn't done that in the past? Maybe they were doing more dry, like white papers in the traditional way a lot of these companies market. And then if you bring to life some of these storytelling tactics and some of these methods to kind of leverage other maybe media and other industries' way of best practices, and you were able to kind of maybe revitalize or maybe kind of just show their business in a different light than maybe they even thought of.
Yeah, and people talk about the term white paper, which is a word that we avoid. White papers are immediately kind of indicate boring, right? So we'll turn that into a playbook or something kind of more interesting. You can take that same content and go from white paper world to here's a recipe book for how this would work, or talking about case studies. We prefer the term customer story because it's about what you did with a customer. The getting them to talk about that on audio video is great. Back to the example I used of the company that does moves large tanks and things. This guy, he's an ex-Marine. He's ridden in these tanks. He has all these kind of war stories around it. So we did pictures of him with the tanks and sort of how those tanks get used. He went in and answered questions when people were talking about that. And so it gave him that kind of, he was Quora famous around this topic, and it put him in front of the right decision makers when they were trying to choose who are they going to work with to then, service one of these projects. So any of that kind of like why you made the product, what the impetus of it was, how there's a story around how the customer uses it, like those are the types of things versus, the metrics on what the product does or how fast it is. It's kind of how you've made either a customer feel or you've been able to really impact your own customers. Those are the types of stories we try to tap into. And everything we write is from a journalistic perspective. It's I am telling you how to do this. It's got very kind of short, not too verbose and not too many technical terms. So we think about it in a different way. We love the fact that customers ask us all the time, are you industry specific? And we're not. We're industry agnostic, but we're problem specific. So if you're in an industry and you're trying to tell your story to your customers to get them to convert, we're the right type of company to work with because we're going to ask those kind of interesting questions that someone within your industry might not. And we're going to quote unquote dumb it down such that your customer feels like they're being taught and they can go teach other people about the topic.
Now, can you share some mistakes that you see companies make on social media?
Well, the biggest mistake that we see people make is they'll find something they think is interesting on another website, and instead of sharing it through one of their own digital properties, they share it directly to that digital property. So a concrete example, let's say that something shared in, the newspaper. So let's say the Wall Street Journal puts out an article and you think it's really interesting. So instead of directly sharing to the Wall Street Journal article from your social media, you should write something on your site or one of your digital properties about why you think that is interesting. So do a little 150 to 200 word. I came across this article today about, how the unemployment rate is going to impact our industry. I agree with it or I disagree with it. If you want to see the full article, go here. And so then you link it over to the Wall Street Journal. So then when you share from social, instead of going to the Wall Street Journal directly and just sending them all of your traffic, send them through your digital property first. That does tag them in case you wanted to do some kind of targeted advertising later. It shows a little bit better impact of what you're doing with your social. And another thing in that is use your own personal social media. Company, we want to hear from people. We don't necessarily want to hear from a company. So when you're sharing things across, maybe share it from your company social media profiles, but make sure you also do it personally.
Now, we are going through this kind of corona virus right now. How often or if or at all should companies be mentioning that or talk about that in terms of their marketing or their social media?
Well, that's the thing that's been interesting is I've received, and I'm sure you have too, emails from companies I had no idea even had my email address. Like I've never heard from them before. And all of a sudden I got an email from them about what they were doing with, COVID-19. And then that's it. Like I haven't heard anything more. I don't know the rest of the story. So, all of a sudden I'm reminded of this business that maybe I went and had dinner there one night or I bought a product from them and they're telling me all about, what they're doing as it relates to COVID-19. But this is an opportunity for them to continue that story. So tell me, again, where you're headed and what you're doing. Castellucci Group, which is one of the restaurant groups here in Atlanta that owns Double Zero and Bar Mercado, they have done an awesome job. They have a email going out every single day, and they're pretty rough, but that's okay because they're kind of like they have to put them together every single day, and they're telling you what's on their menu that day, what you can come pick up, how to get the food, that type of thing. So I certainly know those restaurants are still in business and ready and willing to service me. Some of the others, I've heard from them, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they've just closed their doors. It's not necessarily about the message around COVID-19 as much as now as a business, what are you doing and how as a patron of your business or as a client of your business might I help or what would I need to know without it necessarily just being on that topic.
Good stuff. Well, Eric, if somebody wanted to learn more about Liger Partners, what's the website?
LigerPartners.com. And you can find us all over social and LinkedIn and everywhere else. And you, of course, can reach out to me too, Eric Holtzclaw. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter and all the different platforms. And we are doing office hours every morning at 10 a.m. on Zoom. You can find 10 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find that on our social media platforms, and we would love to have you join us, talk through your own marketing issues and concerns, and just help you solution it out.
So that's office hours for anybody, any business that's interested.
Period. Yep. Any business. We've had several come in, and then we've been able to help them think about and look at their site and look about what they're doing digitally, provide some other opportunities and ideas and strategies. So that is completely open.
Wow. Real time consulting, real life issues in front of the world. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about it and getting the message out.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Eric Holtzclaw with Liger Partners. You can find them at ligerpartners.com. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.